Roland Mumford with Mumford.law. Thank you again for all of you that have supported my channel, which is absolutely blowing up. Our most recent video about that deposition of that officer may hit 100,000 views tonight. A previous video that we did last week involved how you can use Open Records Act requests and sending out evidence preservation demand letters to protect things such as body cam video, dash cam video, and any other document or communications to preserve your claim. And that would be the very first thing that you do after an incident of police misconduct. Now, I have been getting a lot of letters and emails and phone calls from people reaching out to me that they want help. And I understand that and I appreciate that. I am only licensed to practice law in Georgia and Tennessee, in state courts and federal courts, and I'm admitted to the federal courts of Arkansas. If you need an attorney to litigate a Section 1983 case, please go to mpap.org, I believe it is, and there's a referral directory there. Now, another type of letter and demand through a public records request that you want to get, and this is really directed to a lot of you that have been reaching out to me who can't find an attorney, but you want to sort of represent yourselves in a pro se capacity. So this video may seem a little monotonous because I'm going to go through a list of police policies or standing orders that you need to get that may apply to your situation. So if some of you need to stop viewing at this time, I completely understand, but this is going to be very good information. And if you stick through this, you're going to know exactly what to do to request from the police department. I'm going to go through each of these types of standing orders. Every police department operates on a set of policies, standard operating procedures, some refer to them as standing orders, and so forth. And for each type of situation, there's going to be a particular policy document that you're going to want to go by, and that's how you judge the officer's actions to see if they were compliant with policy. Now, one of the things that you want to get to is general duty requirements on basic duties and responsibilities. That's one type of policy. I'm going to just sort of go through these, and then some I'm going to discuss, but I can't discuss all of these due to time restrictions. Another one, discipline handling employee misconduct or department policy and procedure for informal and formal disciplinary practices. Now, that's very important. What are the discipline procedures for an officer in the event of misconduct? And did the police comply with their own policies in disciplining an officer? Investigating misconduct and citizen complaints. How many times have you seen in videos where someone tries to go in and they want to make a formal complaint, a police officer will come out into the lobby and say that they will only take a complaint verbally before they will give a form out, which is completely inappropriate. Some departments will use professional vendor services where you can go onto the website and you put in a public record request, or let's say even a formal complaint. It generates a reference code or ID number, and then they proceed from there. Other police departments will have the complaint form on the website. You fill it out, you either email it in, or you can print it out and take it to the police department. It's very frustrating when police officers act inappropriately and try to prevent you from filing that complaint because they come out and they say they want to hear what you have to say first, and that's totally inappropriate. If you're involved in maybe some type of excessive force or some use of force issue, ask for the policy regarding use of force. That can apply to how takedown maneuvers. If the slightest little bit of passive resistance, these officers, they do these takedowns that have literally killed people because the trauma to the head and brain injuries from the head hitting the ground. Could be a tasing incident. Was it a good tase? Any type of use of force could be any time that they have to use force upon somebody to accomplish restraint, to get you to succumb and put you in handcuffs and so forth. There's going to be some use of force policy that they have to comply with. You absolutely want that. Tactical or strategic increase in audible volume of patrol car when leaving the vehicle at a scene or incident. I literally had this to deal with in a federal lawsuit we're getting ready to file against Robertson County, Tennessee sheriff's deputies. When they were coming in and parking the car, as he started to get out, he jacked up the volume. And it is my contention that he intentionally did that so that the microphone couldn't pick up the conversation of what was going on with my client and the other deputies outside of the car. And I have seen numerous other examples of that have occurred. Actually, Google it and see what comes up. Less lethal launcher or shotgun with non-lethal projectiles. If they use a less lethal type of projectile, for example, you're standing in the driveway, a police officer shows up, they immediately want to come out and try to arrest you. They say, put your hands up. And maybe you don't know what's going on. This actually happened in some videos going around on YouTube about a grandma out west where the agents came up and arrested her, and she was the completely wrong person. She's sort of confused. She's sort of dazed. What's going on? And they're immediately threatening her with lethal force. This may be a type of situation that may be in a crowd control example. That's something that you want to do. You want to get the less lethal launcher or shotgun with non-lethal projectiles. Now, that in that same case that I just mentioned, one of the sheriff's deputies, it looks like a shotgun in the video, but we believe it was one of these types of, I hate to use the term shotgun, but it shoots out some type of projectile. And in that situation, we don't believe that was a proper use of force. General reporting requirements. Interviews with witnesses or suspects. This may be a situation, for example, where let's say a police officer confiscates personal property such as a cell phone from someone in a consensual conversation where there's no basis for exigent circumstances. So we want to know what was the policy that they went by, and this would involve what conversations did they have with either a witness or an alleged victim? What information did they get from that person to form a factual basis to justify either getting a search warrant or maybe an arrest warrant, or in their mind, oh, we better get this phone or we better get this computer or electronic device or whatever property it may be under the basis of exigent circumstances. That's a case that I'm dealing with right now in federal court. And here's the big one: search and seizure. Absolutely always ask for the policy, standing orders, etc. on search and seizure. That could be involving, was it a proper search of your vehicle? Maybe if they impounded the car, did they have a right to do an inventory search of the vehicle? Did they come into your home without a warrant? Was there exigent circumstances to justify the search of your home or your car? This particularly goes to issues when these police officers will bring out that dog, and I've had a case where I know for a fact that drug task force person had alerted that dog to sit. That's my contention. That's my belief. And then justify it as a reason to search the car. Seizure. Seizure would be detaining somebody. Seizure is sort of that gray area between detention, hey, stay here, give me your ID, I need to investigate what's going on, to full-blown arrest. And some federal court districts actually have a definition for seizure as well as detention and arrest. But in a lot of districts, the seizure sort of overlaps detention and arrest. You want to ask for the effectuating warrants for individuals and properly reviewing warrants with other documents to confirm proper identification of subjects, particular to age, name, and physical description. And this is what's coming up in my federal lawsuit we're about to file. How do you know that this officer has got the right person? I mean, it could be a situation like in that case where the person had the same name as the nephew, but the two officers on scene knew who he was from prior incidents, but yet they tried to give him a hard time because they had a warrant that said the name. But if they had just looked at the year, date of birth, physical description, they knew it wasn't him. So anytime that you have a circumstance where the police maybe arrest the wrong person, detain the wrong person, because did they review the warrant? Did they look at the description of the person and so forth? Jurisdiction and mutual aid. Now, there's kind of two situations. I've had this come up in a false DUI arrest where it was a police officer of a city driving out of jurisdiction, perhaps on his way home because they can use the car, but he sees a car driving and pulls him over and he believes it's DUI. He calls the sheriff's deputy because would be the jurisdiction. Sheriff's deputy come on scene and then performs field sobriety tests, arrest for DUI, etc. So look at the policies for mutual aid and assistance and to see if they follow policy. That can also, I've had another case in South Georgia that I've got involved right now where a person was detained and unlawfully arrested because one officer off duty was working with a federal agent and encountered my client, and we want to get the records on that. Another type of situation, I've got a case in Arkansas, It's on my media page on my website. It's been all over the YouTube, where the bonding agent invaded the wrong hotel room, even when the hotel desk person said, no, this room number, not the other number. Well, he still goes into the wrong motel room, busts the door in, and takes my client into custody, and then threatens his life. A few minutes later, they realize, oh, wrong person, after checking out the tattoos, and the felon was 3 doors down. So there, the question is going to be, can you sue a bonding agent for a 1983 action? But the question is going to be is, what was the level of mutual aid with the 2 officers, the police officers that arrived on scene that he had called? Are they just standing downstairs, sort of making sure everybody operates by the law, sort of on a perimeter assistance? Or were they actually helping this bonding agent in the raid? And so that's a really interesting case. As for preliminary and follow-up investigations, did they comply with the policy and how they began the investigation and the following up on the investigation? Police records and documents, record clerks are to comply with subject to a particular Open Records Act. Look for policies on did they comply with their own policies to produce open records when they receive requests. Entering upon property with or without warrant or exigent circumstances. Now, that could be a situation, an officer comes on property, they want to try to engage in a consensual conversation and ask if they can enter your home. Now, there's a number of ways, interesting fact patterns that could come up. Let's say it was a guest in the home that was staying with you for a few days. They can't give consent to an officer to enter the home. However, a roommate that's not the homeowner can give consent. That would be a fact pattern such as that. So that's where you want to get that policy to see if the officers complied. There's all kinds of situations that could come up under that. Always ask for the policy on entering upon property with or without warrant or exigent circumstances. Now, if that officer has knowledge that they approach, they see something's going on, they think maybe you're going to flush drugs down the toilet, that could be an exigent circumstance to enter the home. Another improper type of way that they try to get into a home is with these welfare checks, where there's no reasonable basis or grounds to enter the home upon insufficient information to do these welfare checks. Another way that they try to do that also is they'll bring the DCS, Department of Children's Services, under some call about what's the situation with the children. And in that situation, a lot of homeowners are kind of confused. Do I have to let DCS into my home? That is one way the police officers will try to piggyback and get inside your home. Consent or lack of consent of a property owner regarding search and seizures. Now, if the person clearly said, don't enter my home, did the police officers comply with that? A lot of times what they'll do, they'll knock on the door, they'll try to act in a consensual conversation. The person starts to open the door and they'll say, no, you go get a warrant. And then what they'll do is sometimes they'll stick their foot in to keep you from closing the door, and they continue trying to force their way in. How many times have you seen that in videos? Tactical display or use of firearms. What is the situation this time? That could be, let's say you're in a car and the police officers approach you by the window and they want an ID or they're trying to find out what's going on. And you're sort of not even passively resisting, but you're just sort of questioning what's going on. Or let's say they say, step out of the vehicle, which they abuse the hell out of Pennsylvania versus Mims. Because a police officer asks you to step out of the car, I reluctantly instruct you to go ahead and step out of the car, but these officers abuse that case because the case is very clear. They have to have reasonable grounds to support their theory of officer safety, meaning they have to have a reasonable fear to support this officer safety BS to get you to come out of the car. But they just say, step out of the car. Reluctantly, I'm just going to tell you, step out of the car, just comply, and then file your lawsuit after the fact. So going back to that example, so the person is asking questions. I've seen one video where people will come out and the officer will just immediately pull out a gun, point it at the driver, and the driver's doing nothing to justify that level of use of force to pull out a gun. I was talking about the example of these agents that came up on this grandmother that was the wrong person arrested. Immediately, you see video where the agent slides open the door holding an AR-15, and this grandmother's just standing in the driveway completely bewildered by what's going on, and they're pointing an AR-15. That's where you want to get the policy, something like this, or when an officer's pointing a gun at you, they have to do it because they have a reasonable fear of serious bodily harm or death. Standing orders or mission statements on respect of laws, Constitution, and respect of citizens' individual rights. A common statement in standing operating procedures. This is going to be basically any kind of interaction with anybody, and what are in these orders where they talk about Fourth Amendment and respect people's rights and liberties. And you see this particularly come up in free speech encounters. You also, in the final one, all policies or procedures regarding citizen operation of motor vehicles and request or demand to exit the vehicle. Same regarding use of force to accomplish the same. I think I just discussed a moment ago, Pennsylvania versus Men's, asking you to step out of the vehicle. All right. Thank you very much. Please click like, share, and subscribe. And this is sort of the second step in how you can represent yourself. I'm trying to help people out there that need attorneys, but for whatever reason, the attorneys are not taking their case. Maybe they've got a decent fact pattern. Maybe the damages are not enough. And maybe I can help you through this. I'm going to put a template letter, probably going to have to add it to this video tomorrow, to where you can see these policies specifically, where I may just copy and paste this and put it in the description. Thank you very much. Please share this video. Have a great day.